Okay, well then we'll see
So you were just kind of conspicuously silent on not talking about the fiscal tangle between Tabor and Amendment 23 and that ballot issue. You stood by the speaker when he announced the referendum effort. But have you changed your mind on supporting that as well?
No, I haven't changed my mind supporting what I've said and said pretty publicly recently, is that if it's not going to be a referred measure, I do think that it is necessary to have a coalition put together that's a pretty serious coalition, like Referendum C, like the Referendum C coalition. That was a serious coalition that at the end of the day, Referendum C passed, D failed, but it didn't pass by a law. And so it is important for us to understand how necessary it is to get as much support, and that's something that the Speaker and I will discuss going forward. We are in agreement, complete agreement about the need for a fix. And I think on all these kinds of big questions, it is a timing issue, and it is a coalition building issue. At the end of the day, you put something on the ballot, it's a political issue.
Let me agree with the governor on this point, if I could. There's not a lot of daylight among any of us, I think, on the problems that we face or the solutions that we're trying to craft. Frankly, getting a proposal, any of these proposals on the ballot, is in some ways the easy part. The tough part, I think, is building the coalition the governor described, marshaling the resources you need, facing an opposition that is only very loosely tethered to the truth. I often think in my next job, maybe I'll just take the opposite position on some of these issues. It must be remarkably liberating. You can say whatever you want. But the real hard work, the heavy lifting, the coalition building the governor's described still remains in front of us for any of these ballot measures. And these are all problems that we're going to have to tackle. Look, we inherited serious problems. We inherited a multi-billion dollar backlog in road and bridge repairs. We fell to dead last or near last in the nation in public support for higher education. Our schools are struggling. And we can do better, and we're trying every single year to do that. I think we've made more progress in this session than any of the 8 I've served. I'm proud to say that, and I look forward to watching the work of the next legislative session.
I want to go back to a question Colleen asked. We had the majority. Why didn't we just do transportation funding through the majority? Because I think it's a really important question. If you remember, in the State of the State, I said we wanted to work on transportation issues in a bipartisan fashion. Transportation is one of the big issues, as is education reform, education funding, health care. Those are really big issues. I think the people of the state expect us to work on them in a bipartisan way. And could we have amassed a majority of Democrats and a majority consisting of only Democrats to have done it? We could have, and it becomes a problem in 2 respects. One, then it becomes just an election issue, and there's a lot of Democrats, and they have every right to feel and think this way, who know that they're freshmen, they're incumbents, and they're in districts that have been for a long time Republican districts, and then they got to go and get beat over the head by a Republican opponent saying that they, unilaterally increase fees for transportation funding without us having conducted the necessary education campaign about transportation funding. And the second part of it is, I just don't think that people expect a single party to say, we are going to work on transportation and we're going to leave the Republicans out of the dialogue. I really think if you think about what we did with the federal minimum release dollars on higher ed capital construction, on education reform, if you think about the different kinds of things, even in the healthcare discussion, so many of those things had us in a bipartisan fashion working on big problems. And it's something that I continue to go back to, that think it's the right thing to do. And I think that there's a lot of Republicans who believe that. I think they just locked down because it's an election year.
Let me follow up on that piece. The governor's right. When you look at every single major bill that we passed, it was done in a bipartisan fashion. You look at the School Finance Act, which in the end they kind of locked down, but in every single amendment that we ran on the Senate side, we had at least 25, at least that I put my name on. We had at least 25, 26, 27 votes. At one point we passed an amendment 30-5, because those are not Republican issues or Democratic issues. They're just mainstream Colorado values that we were trying to put into the School Finance Act. And that's why I think when you look at it, and the Speaker talked about it, the Governor talked about it, it's the most dramatic School Finance Act in decades in what we were able to do. The bioscience grants and some of the other things we did with regard to business, all bipartisan. So I think the Governor's right. That's what the people expected of us. That's what the Speaker and I learned in the minority, that when you have total control of everything, and you don't have other voices and values and concerns brought to the table, it doesn't work out the best for your party that's in control or for the state in general.
On Cap for K, the development of that is a 4 or 5 year process. Legislators come and go, state board members come and go. How do you maintain the intensity and the focus to actually implement that and get it funded when the time comes?
So I think to say 4 or 5 years is, I would say 3 to 4 years. Really, there's a lot that will be done in year 3, which would be 2011, that'll be meaningful. And so I don't want to quibble because it is beyond an election cycle. And certainly, we said goodbye to a group of people yesterday that are term limited, another group that have decided not to run. And so that's part of this business that we're in, but it's because I believe we involve the Department of Education and the Colorado Commission on Higher Education in developing first of all, developing the bill and really helping develop the vision. And because the departments are bought into it, it's not just a governor's office thing or a House or a Senate thing. You have this great confluence. You've got a State Board of Education and the Department of Education that gets it and understands the need for reform. You have the Colorado Commission on Higher Education and the Department of Higher Education that gets it. You got the governor's office, the House, and the Senate, this great confluence that said, okay, this is going to be a long-term thing, we understand that, but we're signing on. And we're signing on now for the 3 to 4 years that it will take for implementation. And, it is an important question because school teachers have said to us, we can't change every 6 months what we're doing. If you're going to do this, this has to be something everybody's committed to. And really, at the end of the day, they're right about that. So I have a great deal of confidence that we've got the culture in place in all of the buildings that are going to be involved in this that will have the stamina and really the endurance to get us through 2011, 2012 and implement it.